The mean HOA lady saw the car starting to burn. Instead of helping, she grabbed my keys and locked my disabled daughter inside. The flames grew closer. "Rules are rules," she smirked, not knowing I was a police commander. Her smirk vanished when I pulled out my badge. Before watching full stories, comment below where you're watching from. Also, like and subscribe for more stories. Car alarms and screams broke the quiet Sunday afternoon in Pinehurst Estates. I was building a treehouse for my 7-year-old daughter, Lily, when I heard people yelling, "Fire! Someone help!" I dropped my hammer and ran toward the screams. As a police commander for 20 years, I was used to running toward danger. We had only moved to this neighborhood 3 weeks ago, after my wife died. I hoped this quiet place would help Lily heal. Hello friends, if you new here then don't forget to hit subscribe button, and if you like then hit the like button also, and don't forget to tell me in the comments where you from watching this video. Lily was born with a disease that made her muscles weak. She needed a wheelchair to move around. Despite this, she was brave, smart, and strong in ways that made me proud every day. When I turned the corner onto Maple Drive, I froze. A crowd stood around the community center parking lot, where black smoke poured from a silver car. But what made my heart stop was seeing my own van parked nearby, with Lily trapped inside. I had left Lily with our neighbor, Mrs. Chin, just 30 minutes ago while I worked on the treehouse. They were supposed to be at a children's reading event at the community center. What was happening? I pushed through the crowd and saw Mrs. Chin trying to reach my van. A tall woman in an expensive cream suit was blocking her way. "Move! There's a child in there," Mrs. Chin begged, her voice shaking with fear. "Nobody touches this vehicle until security checks if it belongs here," the woman said coldly, standing between Mrs. Chin and my van. "This is a private event for approved residents only." I knew right away this was Diane Winters, the strict HOA president whose welcome letter had more rules than greetings. Neighbors had warned me about her, but I thought they were exaggerating. "That's my daughter," I shouted as I ran toward them. Diane looked at me with cold eyes. "Stop right there. This vehicle is parked illegally during a restricted event." The fire from the silver car was growing bigger. The wind was blowing smoke and heat straight toward my van. Inside, Lily was trapped in her special seat, her face pressed against the window, looking terrified. "Get away from my van," I ordered as I got closer. Diane didn't move. She lifted her chin proudly. "I've called security and the tow truck. No one registered this ugly vehicle for today's event. Rules are for everyone's safety. The child has a disability," Mrs. Chin cried, tears running down her face. "I just went inside to get her book when the fire started, and this woman wouldn't let me back to the van." Through the window, I could see Lily trying to reach the door locks, but her weak muscles made it impossible. The special controls we installed for her were on the other side of the van, where she couldn't reach them. "My daughter is in danger." "Now," I said, my voice cold and firm, the voice I used as a police commander. "Your supposed daughter could be anyone," Diane said, barely looking at Lily. "For all I know, you're using a child to break our parking rules." She was holding my keys in her perfectly manicured hand, the keys Mrs. Chin must have put down when she rushed inside. Suddenly, the burning car's flames grew much higher, making the crowd step back. The flames were now halfway up the car, and we could feel the heat from 20 feet away. Dark smoke filled the parking lot. "Lady, that car is going to explode," someone yelled from the crowd. Diane looked nervous as she glanced at the burning car, but amazingly, she still didn't move. "If you had properly registered your vehicle and child for this event, we wouldn't be in this situation." I lost my patience. "I am Commander James Mitchell of the 8th Precinct, and you are blocking emergency response during a life-threatening situation," I said, pulling out my police badge from my pocket. "Move, or I will move you." For the first time, Diane looked uncertain. But instead of stepping aside, she did something unbelievable. She pressed the lock button on my key fob. The van's lights blinked as the locks clicked shut. Inside, Lily's eyes grew wide with fear. "I'm securing this vehicle until proper authorities arrive," Diane announced, her voice shaking slightly. "If you're really police, you'll understand the importance of following rules." The burning car made a popping sound. We had maybe 2 minutes before the gas tank might explode. "Everyone back!" I shouted to the crowd before turning to Diane. "Give me those keys right now." Instead of listening, Diane stepped back, gripping the keys tighter. "I know my rights. This is private property managed by the HOA. You have no power here without proper." She didn't finish because 17-year-old Marcus Deerfield, the high school football star from across the street, tackled her to the ground like he was on the football field. "Sorry, ma'am," he said as he pulled the keys from her shocked hand and threw them to me. "That kid's about to burn up in there." I caught the keys and ran to the van, unlocking it with shaking hands. The heat from the nearby fire had made the van's door handle hot to the touch. Smoke was all around us, making it hard to breathe. "Daddy!" Lily cried as I pulled the door open and quickly unbuckled her special harness. "I've got you, sweetheart. Close your eyes and hold your breath." I lifted her from the seat just as the window of the burning car shattered from the heat, sending glass flying everywhere. Holding Lily against my chest, I ran to safety, passing Diane, who was being held down by Marcus and another neighbor. Her perfect suit was dirty with black marks, her face twisted with anger despite the danger all around. "You can't touch me like this. Do you know who I am?" she screamed. I didn't stop until Lily was safely across the street, where I put her down on a garden bench away from the smoke. Her wheelchair was still in the van, but that was the least of my worries. "Are you hurt?" I asked, checking her for injuries while trying to control my anger. Lily shook her head, her blonde pigtails swinging. "Mrs. Chin went to get my book because I left it inside. Then the car started burning, and that mean lady wouldn't let her come back to me," she said, her lip trembling. "She said people like me shouldn't be at normal people events." My blood boiled at her words, but before I could respond, a huge boom shook the parking lot as the burning car's gas tank exploded. Flames covered the car completely, quickly spreading to the ground around it. The fire truck sirens wailed in the distance, but they wouldn't arrive in time to save my van. Within minutes, the intense heat had set my van's tires on fire, and soon my whole van was burning, along with Lily's special wheelchair, her talking device, and all the special controls that gave her independence. As we watched our things burn, Mrs. Chin came to us crying hard. "I'm so sorry, James. I only left her for a minute. That woman, she took your keys from my purse when I put it down to show my ID. It's not your fault," I told her, though my mind was racing with thoughts about what had happened. When the first police car arrived, I recognized Officer Ramirez, who had worked under my command before I moved to this area. "Commander Mitchell," she said, surprised to see me. "What are you doing here?" "I live here now," I replied grimly, "and I need you to arrest that woman for child endangerment, theft, and blocking emergency help." Diane Winters, who had been arguing loudly with neighbors, went quiet as Officer Ramirez walked toward her. She finally seemed to realize I really was a police commander. "This is all a misunderstanding," she stammered, trying to fix her messy appearance. "I was just enforcing our community rules when this situation got out of hand." "You locked a disabled child in a vehicle with a fire burning nearby," Officer Ramirez said flatly as she took out her handcuffs. "After stealing the keys from her caretaker." "I did not steal anything. I was taking an unauthorized." "Save it for your statement," Ramirez cut her off, reading Diane her rights as she put the handcuffs on her wrists. The days after the fire were both terrible and surprising. Our van and all of Lily's special equipment were completely destroyed. Her wheelchair alone had cost over $20,000 and was made specially for her condition. Insurance would pay for some of it, but we would be without proper equipment for weeks or months. But as news of what happened spread through the neighborhood, something unexpected happened. The community that had seemed so cold and rule-focused suddenly came together to help us. Marcus' parents offered their van with a ramp whenever we needed it. A retired engineer who lived nearby, started building a temporary wheelchair using parts from his workshop. Even the scared HOA board members found their courage and called an emergency meeting where they all voted to remove Diane from her position. Most surprising was Robert Winters, Diane's husband of 30 years, who came to our temporary apartment the day after the incident with tears in his eyes and a check in his hand. "This won't cover everything," he said quietly, handing me the check with shaking hands, "but it's a start. I've spent 30 years making excuses for Diane's behavior, telling myself her need to control everything was just her being perfect. Yesterday showed me what she's really become, and what I've allowed her to become." The check was for $75,000. "I can't accept this," I said, trying to give it back. Robert shook his head firmly. "Please. You're not the first family she's hurt, just the first with the power to hold her responsible. I filed for divorce this morning, and I'm selling our assets before she can hide them. Consider this partial payment for years of harm she's caused." But the revenge against Diane was just beginning. During the police investigation, officers discovered videos from the community center security cameras that showed Diane not only taking the keys from Mrs. Chen's purse but also smiling as she watched Lily struggle inside the van. The district attorney upgraded the charges to attempted voluntary manslaughter when they found text messages on her phone to her friend saying, "Finally getting rid of the Izzers in our community. Fire is quite effective." The local news picked up the story, and soon Diane's face was on every channel. Former neighbors from communities where she had lived before came forward with similar stories of her cruelty. Her real estate company fired her, and clients canceled their listings with her. The court ordered a psychiatric evaluation, which found her dangerously lacking in empathy and remorseful only about being caught. 2 weeks later, as we waited for Lily's new wheelchair to be delivered, we went to the community center's reopened library hour. The fire damage had been fixed, and a new ramp replaced the old stairs at the entrance, a project quickly approved by the new HOA board. What we didn't expect was the crowd of neighbors waiting inside, standing around a table covered with a sheet. Mrs. Chin stood at the front, smiling through tears. "We couldn't replace everything," she said, holding the sheet, "but we wanted to give Lily back her voice." She pulled away the cloth to reveal a brand new communication device, even better than her destroyed one. "Everyone in the community helped pay for it," Marcus explained, kneeling beside Lily's borrowed wheelchair, even people from other neighborhoods who heard what happened. Lily's eyes widened as she reached for the device, her fingers finding the familiar buttons despite the new design. The first message she typed made everyone cry. "Thank you for seeing me, not just my chair." As for Diane Winters, her legal troubles got worse when investigations revealed she had done similar things to elderly and disabled residents throughout her time as HOA president. The district attorney found she had blocked wheelchair ramps for 3 other families and had illegally towed cars belonging to disabled residents who had valid permits. The judge showed no mercy at her sentencing. "Mrs. Winters, your actions show a pattern of discrimination that culminated in nearly causing the death of a disabled child. This court sentences you to 15 years in state prison with no possibility of parole for 10 years. As Diane was led away in handcuffs, she finally broke down, begging for forgiveness. But it was too late. The community she had terrorized turned their backs on her. Her husband donated their mansion to be converted into a recreation center for disabled children. The final insult came when the center was named after Lily, with a permanent plaque at the entrance telling the story of how one brave little girl's ordeal exposed years of cruelty and changed an entire community. 6 months later, on a bright spring morning, we gathered at the newly named Lily's Place for its opening ceremony. The former Winter's mansion had been transformed into a wonderland where children of all abilities could play together. The funding had come from Diane's seized assets and community donations. As Lily cut the ribbon from her new wheelchair surrounded by friends who now saw her amazing spirit instead of her disability, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. What Diane had intended as cruelty had accidentally created something beautiful, a community that had learned to see beyond rules to the people they were meant to protect. That evening, as I tucked Lily into bed, she asked the question I'd been dreading. "Daddy, will the mean lady ever get out of jail?" I considered sugarcoating it, but Lily deserved the truth. "Not for a very long time, sweetheart. What she did was very wrong." Lily was quiet for a moment before saying something that amazed me. "That's good. Sometimes bad people need to be in timeout for a long time so they learn to be nice. And now her house is helping lots of kids like me." Out of the ashes of hatred, something wonderful had grown, a community that learned to value kindness over rules and people over policies. And though the price had been high, watching my daughter thrive in this new world of acceptance made me believe the transformation was worth all the fire we had to go through to get here.